Agile marketing case study. This case study is about how Agile marketing was implemented in a digital marketing agency. I was part of this project and I'll be sharing how and what we did to make the project successful. I was hired by the agency as a subcontractor, and the agency in this context I'll refer as an agency, and when I say client, I mean the in-house team from the organization. Due to NDA, non-disclosure agreements, I cannot call or highlight any names, and everything will be confidential, but I'll do my best to share how Scrum with a flavor of Kanban was applied in this digital marketing agency. And at the end of this video, if you have any question that needs clarifying, drop me an email or contact me directly for further clarification. So on the agency side, we had a Scrum Master. The Scrum Master worked on the team. And then we had a client director. This client director was responsible for managing the in-house team on the client's perspective, as well as managing the delivery team, the people working in collaboration with the Scrum Master. So this client director also, from the agency perspective, was reporting straight into the CEO of the agency. So he was more like the main person managing dependencies and issues, but wasn't heavily involved, but had visibility of the project. So the Scrum Master reported into the client director on the agency perspective. And above that, we had the marketing director. The marketing director was based in the UK, and he reported into the VP marketing based in America. So this is the client side of the Agile marketing. And then we had external stakeholders as well, which were on the same level of the VP of marketing. These were the sales director and the head of IT. At the beginning, I highlighted that this was about a website redesign project, and we had a specific deliverable. And we created a cross-functional team. This team understood what we wanted to deliver. So this team comprises of the UX. This UX person was responsible for looking at the existing website and creating and doing user research and doing everything that has to do with usability testing, user research, customer personas and stuff like that. And the UX person worked closely with the SEO and PPC person, who was in charge of reviewing, auditing the website to make sure that we didn't break any rules or create any problems for the redesign project. And also we had the front-end developer, the back-end developer, a web analytics person, and then we had a project manager. The project manager was on site 3 days a week because all those teams were co-located, and the project manager reported directly into the marketing director and the VP marketing from the client perspective, from the client side, sorry. So we also had the CRO person that was looking at the customer journey, looking at the conversion path and making recommendations and gathering insights as well. We had the graphic designer, and then we had the IT team. The IT team was reachable through the marketing director on the client side. That was the part where the head of IT came into play, because we needed to make sure that the functional requirements for the redesign was accurate. Everything on the back end side of things was working. So the IT team worked closely with the back end to make sure that all those functionalities were aligned and accurate. And then we had legal, because this was a regulated this organization worked in a regulated industry, so there was compliance, and everything that we were doing needed to go through legal for approval. And then we had a tester. So after everything was created on a stage by stage basis, the landing page, the home page, the tester kind of ran tests to make sure that everything was working very, very well. So this is what the structure looked like. What I like to highlight here that when we worked in an agile way, we were co-located. So everyone on the team was in the same office. And we had the seating arrangement was the SEO person sat beside the UX, the web analytics, and then the project manager sat on the other side. It was a table that had four on each side. There was no division in between both of them, so it was a truly cross-functional team. So the graphic designer was also on the table, the content person was there, and then we had another table behind where the other members of staff was. And then close to the table we had a board, a physical board. So that board, I'll talk more about the board later on, but that board was what we used as a Kanban board. And we also had a virtual board as well, because the VP marketing was based in the States, the sales director, so they needed to have visibility. So we replicated the physical Kanban board into a virtual Kanban board to communicate and to give visibility to the people in America. For this project, the North Star was the statement of work. The statement of work was agreed with the agency and was created in a collaborative way. So we had it was a living document. The deliverables were clear, but the requirements within the document was continuously updated. And the VP marketing, who was the sponsor on the client side, owned the statement of work. And this statement of work also contained financials and expenses, everything that needed to be known. So it wasn't like there was information that the VP marketing knew that people on the team didn't know. So that was one of the good things that I saw in this project. Like, everybody had visibility of the final goal, what was the expectation, even the finances, and even the rates that the payments that was made to the contractors, and everything had visibility. Nothing was hidden. The marketing director, who was also the product owner, reported into the VP marketing. He kind of ran the execution side of things. He was responsible for making sure that everything was going, there was progress, while the VP marketing kind of took a back seat and just kind of allowed and empowered the marketing director to take reign of the project. The Scrum Master was on site with the team, and he was responsible for managing the Scrum team, doing all the meetings and everything like that. So the statement of work was what created the backlog. So basically, all the items that was relevant to SEO, PPC, social media, content was now broken down, and each person, and I like to highlight that each subject matter expert on the team created a backlog, because we had visibility of the goal, the expectation from the VP marketing. So because everyone was up to an expert level, so we created and broke down the task into this backlog. And we kind of, although we created everything because it was a long defined 4 months project, we created each sprint backlog from the product backlog. So basically, for the UX person, he broke down, he knew clearly what needs to be done for the whole project, so he broke it down into bits. So we had a total of 16 sprints, if I remember correctly. Yeah, about 16 sprints. So it was 2-week cycles, and at the start of each iteration we created a list of items that we needed to finish at the end of each 2 weeks, and presented we had a meeting. So the meeting was the daily meeting, the planning meeting, and then the show and tell. The daily meeting involved the marketing director, the Scrum Master, and the Scrum team. It was on site, but the marketing director wasn't always present physically. So he dialed in through phone, and we just basically went through progress reports and things that were happening towards the end date, which was 16 weeks. So there was a clear visibility of how the work was progressing because we had a defined end goal. And then the planning meeting was at the beginning of every 2 weeks. So at the end of the first sprint, we made sure that we did a show and tell on site where the people in America dialed in. They were updated on what work was completed for the week. The marketing director, because he was based in the UK, came on site to the agency, and everybody just sat around the table, prepared, each person, the SEO, the PPC, each person on the team prepared a very short presentation, not more than 10 minutes at most. If you can do it under 5 minutes, perfect. 2-3 slides, top level, stood in front of the room and just did a show and tell. It wasn't like to create any anxiety or anything, but just so that the stakeholders were aware of what you did that week and the potential issues that you're having, which we also flagged during the daily meeting with the marketing director. So the show and tell was a way to kind of create documents as well. So there was deliverables. So the UX person would do his show and tell and would present the mock-ups of the homepage, and that was the final deliverable that would then be passed on to the marketing director and the VP. So the show and tell wasn't just about showing things, it was about actually delivering the tangible stuff at the end of each iteration, leading up to the final design that we delivered at the end of the 16 weeks. So as I said, these meetings were attended by the sales director as well and the head of IT to make sure that everything was aligned. And one thing I like to highlight about this is we used a blend of Kanban and Scrum to implement this project. At the beginning of the project, the sales director, the head of IT, the VP marketing, and the marketing director had 2-day training. This 2-day training wasn't about Scrum or Kanban. It was just about everything, a blend of both of them for them to understand the process in which the team will work, and then to teach them how to manage expectation, to teach them how to delegate, and to help them understand that working in an agile way meant they had to be very, very fast in responding when requests are sent to them, because this project was 16 sprints and it had a defined timeline. So this is just a top level example of how agile marketing is applied in agency. This does not apply to all agencies because this was a specific project. I will share a different case study about how agile marketing was implemented across an agency that had close to 40 clients, and I helped them kind of move away from using Scrum because they found out that Scrum was too rigid for them, and move them more towards a Kanban style of agile marketing. But that's more advanced. This is just a top level overview of how agile marketing was implemented in an agency. And the key points I want you to understand is the Scrum Master wasn't fixed. It's rotated across the team, and the marketing director was the product owner, and that was on the client side. And in between that, we had a client director that was managing the internal activities, and he was responsible for removing blockers. For example, there was a time where we had issues crawling the existing website, and we had to get through to the head of IT. Your normal Scrum would dictate that you should go through the Scrum Master or through the line of authority to get to the sales director, but we worked in a very different way. The subject matter expert on the team contacted the sales director directly and got the line of communication was very, very open, and the visibility was just amazing, and the project was a success. So I've seen agile marketing work in an agency perspective, but one thing that I would like to highlight is every member of the Scrum team was an expert. So most of us were contractors. So if you're trying to apply this within a team of existing agency employee, you might want to look at the experience level of those people on the team. If the experience level is not accurate or it's not up to scratch, then you might struggle on that part. And that's why Agile was very, very successful in IT, because all the Scrum team in the context of IT were very skilled people. So they didn't really need, from a skills perspective, they didn't have any dependency on external stakeholders. In the context of marketing, that's where it becomes tricky. You need to know if you have a resource that is shared across multiple teams, and how would that impact on you delivering at pace? How would that impact on the velocity and the throughput of your task execution? And one thing I also like to highlight is we didn't use user stories. We used the word task instead. So the product backlog had task, big level epic tasks. So tasks that would say, for example, create a mock-up of the homepage. That would be like a deliverable at the end of the sprint. But leading to that, there will be subtasks, smaller tasks that you need to use to create that final goal. So what we did was we made sure that each task was not more than 2 days. And we kind of didn't work at 100% capacity. There was flexibility. So the idea was you started on a Monday, but the work doesn't really gather pace until the Tuesday. And by the end of the 2 weeks, towards the Friday, you should have at least a day flexibility. So it's not like you have to just ram pack all the tasks into the 2 weeks and you're not able to finish it. So capacity management is also very, very important to give way for things that will fly into the team, unexpected tasks coming into the team. So that's one thing that we learned as well. We didn't work at 100% capacity to give room for people to take on important tasks. So if something comes in from the VP of marketing that was urgent or needed to be added into the backlog, or during the sprint, we had the flexibility of taking stuff away from the sprint back into the backlog and then into the sprint. So we were always reprioritizing, and that's where the daily meeting was very, very important. So things that were top priority, the marketing director with information on the client side would tell us that, okay, they've deprioritized that. This is now the priority. So there was that flexibility. We were not very, very rigid. Although we worked in sprint, there was no hard and fast rule that if a task didn't finish in this sprint, you couldn't move it into the second sprint. So that's where the difference between Agile in marketing and IT is different. And everyone on the team, as I said, was very, very knowledgeable and experienced about Agile marketing. So that helped. So that's why we moved the Scrum Master role across the team. 1 week someone will be the Scrum Master, the other person will be, so it was basic admin maintenance. And at the time we used a software called Rally. I think it was acquired by LeanKit and then acquired, I don't know the story, but we used that Rally software, which is similar to Trello. And we also use Jira. It's an Atlassian tool, Confluence, to manage file sharing and stuff like that. So we use Slack as well to communicate with the team. Everyone can communicate it easily through that. So that's another thing that I like to highlight. If you're looking to implement Agile marketing, you need a different type of communication method, different from email, that will allow easy access and file sharing, and also security as well, because it was an heavily regulated industry. So we were very, very careful with what we shared. So we didn't really use Google Suites and stuff like that to share documents. This is a top level overview of a case study of Agile marketing. If you have any question or need further clarification on how to apply Agile marketing in a digital marketing agency, drop me an email and I'll do my best to reply. Thank you very much and stay agile.